Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session. We have our colleague Olga from the English department ready to start. I also have my colleague Priscilla on the call. She's going to be moderating this session along with me. Olga already mentioned that on the bottom of your screen, there's a chat button. Feel free to click on it and start sharing questions or comments. And as Olga moves along the session, we will make sure that we bring up those questions so that they can get addressed. I am recording this session so that we can make it available in YouTube later for all of you to rewatch this if you like, but also for those who weren't able to attend. We have a little over 90 people who signed up for this session. And so far we are on 61 and counting. But they will join us and we'll make sure that they get access to everything. All right. So
since we have so many people in the session, if folks would not mind muting your microphone, because sometimes we get a lot of noise from outside or down the hall or wherever, the dog barking or the sirens going by or somebody's other phone call. So please, on the lower left of your screen, you should see a microphone and just
make sure that you click on it and that the microphone has a red line. That means that you are muted. Whenever you have a question, you're more than welcome to use the chat, but also raise your question as we move along, and we'll make sure that it gets addressed. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Olga.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you Pablo and for Priscilla for organizing and for just being so great and patient and incredibly resourceful. So yes, we're going to talk mostly about Zoom, and let me just share my screen with you. I'll show you the agenda. So what I'm doing right now, if you look again on the bottom of your screen, I'm going to click on share screen. You don't need to do that, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select my PowerPoint and you will be able to see it. So this is something you can do also with your students. And this is something that your students can do if they're giving PowerPoint presentations. So we're gonna talk a little bit about why Zoom, what it can offer to educators, what it can offer to students. Then I'm gonna walk you through some basic controls that students have as participants in your meeting. Then we are going to, I'm gonna do a little demo about creating a meeting and selecting some key settings for Zoom meetings. And then we're gonna try to move to the second part where I would like to give you a little practice. So those of you who are on your computers, you should be able to set up Zoom accounts if you don't have them yet. It's very quick and I'll show you how. And then scheduling a meeting. It should not take more than 10 minutes. And then if you would like to practice one-on-one, you can send meeting invitations to Pablo and myself, but you'll just need to maybe get in touch with us beforehand so that we can figure out the time that'll be mutually convenient. I'll share some resources. Zoom has been putting out a lot of really wonderful, very clear webinars. One of them in particular is very useful. It's about teaching with Zoom, and also a bunch of 1-minute videos that are really, really effective. Okay, so let me just move the ribbon here so I can see my screen. Okay, so how can Zoom enrich online teaching or distance learning? It is probably the closest you're going to come to having a real classroom, but it's not the same. For example, right now I can only see 5 of you. I will not be able to see my whole class if it's more than 5-6 people. So if I can on my screen move the ribbon and see who is there and just to kind of check their engagement, but I won't be able to see them all together. Also, obviously, people can participate on voice. They can call in or they can simply cross out their video and then I won't be able to see them. So it's not exactly the same as having a classroom. But it's also very good because students have various ways of engaging. They can engage in video, they can call in, or they can simply close the video but be able to participate on voice, or they can only type in the chat and participate that way. So you can, see what they're saying and respond to their questions on the chat. Zoom also makes it possible for students to go into breakout rooms and do some collaborative tasks. As they're doing that, and we will demonstrate that with Pablo in a little bit, as they're doing that, you can actually drop in to those rooms and see if they need any help, see how they're doing, and then you can invite them back to the main meeting space. Students can deliver PowerPoint presentations to the real audience, which is always exciting, especially if you're teaching public speaking and you want them to have that experience. They can also share a screen in a way that will give you control over their screen. So if you are going over a paper, for example, they can share the screen with you, or you can share the screen with them. And together you can work on a Word document. You can have the remote control, they can have the remote control, and you can sort of go through it. It's possible also on Zoom to give quizzes, and it's probably a good idea to do that just to kind of check people's engagement, especially if you have a long class, and we'll show you how to do that as well. There is a whiteboard function through share screen. It's basically white space with lots of icons, so you can draw together with your student, you can type, you can write as if by hand. In a previous workshop, Milena was showing, what was it called? I think a sketch pen, where you can actually use it on your iPod to write on the screen, but you don't have to. You can also just use whatever commands they have. For accessibility purposes, there is a closed captioning function that's available. The only issue with that is you need to have somebody in the meeting who will be typing up the captions, and then they can be recorded and made available. So if the student has a transcriber, they can do it. If you want to do it, I doubt that Office for Students with Disabilities will be able to provide anyone like that, but that option is available if there is a typist. You do have the opportunity to record the meeting, just like we'll be recording this meeting. So students who were not able to attend can watch it later. You can put a little link on Blackboard and they can simply watch it. And through the share screen function, you can model whatever. I mean, modeling is such a big part of teaching. So if you want to show them how to write a paragraph, or how to put something together, you can do it and they can see your screen, so they will be following you. So these are some of the things that Zoom offers to instructors. And then for students, I mean, it's a lot of the same things, obviously, but I just want to highlight, of course, they get immediate feedback. They get validation. They get to hear what their classmates are thinking. They can raise their hand, just like you can raise your hand now in the chat. If you want to ask me something, you can lower your hand, their hand. They can also give you some nonverbal suggestions, go slower, go faster. If you look on the chat, do that. Obviously, they're building the team because they can work collaboratively, and they have different ways to engage. I have never used Zoom because I've never taught online, so I've never used it in my own classes. I have used Zoom. That was wrong. I did use the Zoom in my classes, but only when I did COIL projects, meaning I would have my class physically there, and there would be another class in another country, and we would have a class-to-class conference. So that was really useful. Students got very excited. But what I noticed sometimes, if you don't keep them on their feet with questions, if you don't switch activities, their immediate physical environment becomes very real to them, and they get distracted very easily. So they look on their phone. So you have to keep your lecture short, just like basic recommendations that we give for online teaching, I think. Keeping lectures or videos very short, as short as possible. Creating discussion structure where they can actually take turns, maybe in moderating and responding to things. Trying to make use of breakout rooms. consider giving them little quizzes, maybe in the beginning, at the end. It will also help to gauge their engagement, to see, maybe ask a couple of questions at the end, especially what was clear, what was unclear. Maybe in the middle do that, just to kind of get their attention. Okay, so now I want to ask you to take a quick look at the different controls that you have as a participant, because those are the controls that your students will have as well. Let me just get my window back here. I have to stop sharing. 1 second. Okay, so you already know there is a mute button on the left. You as a participant can mute yourself anytime. You can also stop your video. You should be able to invite people. I've never done that before, but you should be able to invite people if you click on invite. You can send them an email. You know how many participants are there, who is there. You can send them a private message if you want. If that setting was initially checked, then your students can send private messages to each other. Does anybody want to try sharing the screen? I mean, it's very simple. You just share it, you press on share screen, and then you select the window that you want to share. Okay, somebody shared their, thank you, Carol. You shared your calendar. Thank you. Yes, perfect. So now you can stop share and it will stop sharing.
Yeah, and the stop share, it's right at the top. Fantastic.
Okay, so the chat button we already talked about. I see some really, oh, there's a lot here, so we can talk in a little bit. Record, you can record your meeting. Even when you set up the meeting, you can select record from the beginning, but I don't really recommend it because, you know, maybe you just want people to kind of get in just like we did, right? There you go, perfect, yes. So when you share screen, you can select whiteboard and it will allow you to do that.
And I think in the previous session, it was mentioned that the whiteboard is particularly helpful for math classes, right? You can share the whiteboard and you're able to write and demonstrate something that you may necessarily not do with a regular text editor.
I think I will maybe pause for a second. I see there are a bunch of questions. Pablo, is there anything that needs addressing right now?
Back to you. Yeah. Let me go over a few of the questions. Well, some of them is a question that popped up that I responded to was if we're able to record in Zoom, how do we share that? Someone asked a question, what if my student missed a class? I recorded the session. How do I then share that with the student?
So you would record, I would recommend recording on the cloud. In that case, Zoom is going to send you a link and you can simply share the link with the students. So I'm trying, unfortunately, we are not hosts, so I can't show you how to do that. But at the end of the PowerPoint, there'll be and also in your chat, we posted helpful links, and one of them has 1-minute videos from how to do specific things.
I'm going to post it, Shirley. I have those links right here.
Okay, perfect.
I think you're talking about this one. Let me post it in just a moment. One of the things that I like about Zoom is that they have an excellent help page with very brief videos. They are no longer than 1 minute and 10 seconds. So I'm posting it on the chat. It's the support page. And you will find videos for everything. How to start a meeting, how to join a meeting, how to do this, how to do that. And they are very brief and to the point. Yeah. Do you want to move ahead with the poll or? I'm following your lead.
Actually, maybe what I can do quickly, I just want to I want to just say that when you share screen, when you click on that button, and you can all do it, I can give you a minute, you will see a few possibilities. Basic simply allows you to share one of your screens. It also allows you to do whiteboarding. Advanced is too advanced for me. The next one is file, which allows you to share anything you want from your Dropbox, from your Microsoft OneDrive, from your Google Drive. So I just wanted to make that clear. If you want to click, you don't have to share necessarily, but if you click on share screen and then look at the options, just maybe click on basic and see the options there, and then click on files and see the options there, and then exit out. Yeah, I think if it would be a good idea to take a look at how we can, yeah, these are the basic controls that students see. See, I didn't realize that participants can actually record, but it looks like we can, Pablo, right?
So the default settings on Zoom allows all of the participants in a call to view the record button. However, the default setting is that only the host is able to record a meeting, but the host can also allow others to record. You can always change that. If any of the participants right now, for instance, presses on the record button, it will have a pop-up window that says ask for permission to the host. That's the default, but you can always change it.
Okay, so maybe we can stop sharing.
Sure.
And do a little quiz.
Sure. You want to launch it now?
Uh-huh.
All right. So.
Yeah, so we just have a couple of questions for you. You can do that with your students. You will create a poll. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. In the beginning of the meeting, and you can save it, and then you can launch it whatever you want. Like we launched it midway through the meeting, and your students can, if you could actually take a minute and answer these questions. And once you submit, Pablo will get a notification and he'll generate a list of responses. Well, he won't, but Zoom will do it for him.
So I see all the responses going back and forth.
What do you mean back and forth?
I'm sorry, all the responses are coming in. I see 34 people out of 7 people have voted. We have a total of 78 participants now. A little over half of you have responded. If you can take a moment and just respond to the 2 questions. And this is an example of how you could prepare your questions and survey your students while on a Zoom call.
And I believe you have up to 10 questions, and I think you can do up to 25 quizzes per meeting, something like that. And Pablo, will you be able to show us what the report looks like with all the responses?
Yeah, I think once I close this.
Okay.
Yeah, there's as of this moment 44 out of 77 responses. 45.
Okay, well, we'll give it a couple of minutes. While this is happening, does anybody have any questions or thoughts or?
Hello, my name is Paul. I just unmuted for a second.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of questions. Is there going to be a Q&A later? But because I've been trying this out with my general psych classes this week, I sort of like a trial run, and I taught like 4 classes, and there was pretty good attendance, and it really worked pretty well. I enjoyed it, and I think the students enjoyed it. But there are little pitches, and there are some questions. Like, for example, I wanted to make a survey, and now I see that's exactly what you did, but you didn't show us where and how to create the poll or survey. So hopefully you will do that.
Yes.
I can't understand.
Because that would be a really good tool for me to use.
Sure.
So where's like the option or accessibility to the poll? Like where would I create it?
So the first thing you're going to do is in your web browser, you will go into your account and then settings. I'm going to try to do that. I'm actually going to do that a little bit later.
Oh, you are going to do it. Okay.
Do you want me to quickly show where that option is?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen for one moment.
Perfect.
So Olga was speaking about in your Zoom dashboard, necessarily not on the client, but on the web. You log into Zoom, and then on the left side, you should be able to see settings. And there's a number of different options right here. One of them is, one of them is poll. And I believe by default it's not enabled. So just make sure that you have it enabled before you schedule a meeting, and make sure this is on. Once you have that enabled, when you go to the your actual meeting, you will be able to see the poll button at the bottom of your screen, and you will be able to create a question.
But you can do that ahead of time before your class.
You
I
can't.
believe.
I don't think you can. I think
Okay.
you do.
So you just created that a few minutes ago.
Correct. Oh, yes, I did that. In this case, we had the benefit that Olga was running the session and I was doing that in the background.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
So what you would do is you would maybe design the questions and maybe start, you have the option of starting your meeting a little bit earlier.
Right.
So you can start, prepare the poll, but don't launch it. And then when the actual meeting starts, you'll launch it and students will see it whenever you want them to see it.
Correct. Yeah.
Can I ask another question now, or save till later?
Yeah, I mean, we're still waiting, so sure.
Okay, so one other question is, since it seems to be so popular, when I was in LaGuardia last week, and they have the Blackboard something ultra, distance learning feature, and everyone seemed to, well, everyone, the people I spoke to who are more savvy, tech savvy than I am, they all said Zoom is the way to go, but LaGuardia doesn't really, promote that one. But it seems like you are kind of promoting it. So are you going to be purchasing this? Well, right now I have a free trial. And then the other school that I work at, the private school where I work, I'm an adjunct. So my full-time job is at this private school, and I believe they're going to purchase it. So which means I'm going to have it on my work computer anyway. But I'm just wondering if it's going to be purchased so that the students also will have, that, and all the professors will have it. Or is it free now? I don't really know, in terms of the, utility, because I'm finding it, fairly easy. And believe me, this is the first time in my life, and I'm 72, that I've ever taught, distance learning. But it was actually pretty fun.
I think I can answer your question as I understand it now. I'm Priscilla from the Center for Teaching and Learning, and I'm assisting Pablo and Olga today.
Right.
And so I had asked about the same thing, like, were they going to purchase Zoom? Because I also like it, and I've had a hard time with some of the other tools.
Right.
But as I understand it, the answer is no.
Okay.
And there are a lot of similar functions in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. There are a few differences. I know that we're not supposed to promote tools that CUNY is not officially supporting, but I will say honestly that I think Zoom is more accessible also for deaf students who need to see interpreters, just because of the interface. It makes it easier, and it's so easy to use. There's also another tool that's in the toolbox now, which I haven't worked with at all, which is WebEx. And they're now offering that, which is a video conferencing software. And now CUNY is offering that through Blackboard. So
So I'll ask one more question now, and then I'll mute my mute button. is that the thing I was concerned about is that the sort of the ethical thing. If let's say like 2/3, 3/4 of the students are very comfortable with Zoom, which seems to be my experience this past week. But then there are a number, like 1/3 to 1/4, a significant number, that don't have the tools. Like they don't have a computer that has a camera, or they don't have a phone that has enough memory for something. I mean, I'm just talking off the top of my head. So if they don't have the tools, but they have access to Blackboard and they're used to that, so then I have to make a decision. If I'm going to really do a lot of teaching on Zoom, that's not fair.
So I think there are two things. One, students who somehow are not comfortable, or don't have a good data plan, they can always call in. So we'll show you how to set up a meeting. When you send a meeting invitation, you will send them different numbers that they can call.
Oh, so they just have the audio on their phone, but
right.
They won't see anything, or they will see it on their phone.
They won't see, no. Just
a lot of my students were using their phone, but they were able to, I was able to see their picture, I mean their photo, and they were able to see what I posted and shared.
Right. So that's a different kind of, that's
why I wanted to send out a survey to see who has what, All right, that's
a good idea.
I also know that there is a way for Zoom to be integrated in different learning management systems, including Blackboard. You could see into that. One of the resources we'll share is actually an educator's resource, and I'm sure that they talk about it there. So
okay.
Yeah, so that's possible. I think that's the biggest challenge for all of us, that we can't appease everyone, that different students are comfortable with different tools. Yeah, that's a different conversation that maybe we can raise in
okay, thank you very much.
One thing though on that exact topic is, I think if a lot of students don't have access to a computer, but have access to a phone, and Zoom is extremely easy with your phone.
Right.
Yeah, the students, a lot of the students were, in fact, the majority were on their phones, and there was no problem. But
I think that's another great advantage to Zoom.
Yeah. So that doesn't work with the Ultra?
I'm not sure about, that's a good question. So we need to do like a comparison, a side-by-side comparison between Zoom and Collaborate and WebEx.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your questions.
Okay, so I think now Pablo has some results.
Just a short note about Blackboard, Collaborate, and Zoom. For example, my MacBook Air doesn't have the same features, couldn't use the same features on Blackboard Collaborate than I can use on Zoom. So for me, there's no choice, probably as for many others. So just a Zoom.
That's really good to know, Marina. Thank you.
Well, if that's the case, and we're in this sort of crisis situation, then I think the college has to, add Zoom to their toolbox. I mean, I think it's kind of a no-brainer, in my opinion, though. Anyway,
I'm with you, but I think we're not going to settle that right now. We should let.
No, I know that.
Yeah, but thank you for your questions. They're really good. Thanks.
Pablo, how are we doing with the report?
Let me go ahead and share. You should now see it. Do you see it, Olga? You do, right?
No.
Let me check. It says sharing results, and attendees are now viewing poll results. Maybe if you click on poll.
We don't see poll.
Let me double check. Let me go ahead and do this once again. Share results.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. So this was an anonymous survey, right, Pablo?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So we can just see here how many people are using different tools, okay? So I think it's a really convenient tool to generate some data for you from students right away. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is actually show how to set up a meeting and how to select those settings. Let me see if I will be able to do that now.
Can I ask a question before you continue?
Sure.
If you share a link in the chat, how can we capture that link? Because once the meeting's over, that information is lost, right?
No, it's not lost. If you want to capture, I believe, Pablo, in your settings, when you were setting up the meeting, you probably told them to keep track of the transcript, of the chat transcript, right?
There is an option, I believe, for you to not only download the record, but download an audio of the meeting and download as the chat, and it will show you the text of what transpired on the chat.
So that's a setting that you have to make sure you set before the meeting starts.
Correct. So if you notice prior to this, when I was showing, I can remember someone's name who asked the question, how do you enable the poll? You go into your dashboard on the website, you go into the settings, and there's a number of settings that you might want to make sure that you visit before scheduling a meeting, so that you're making sure that all the settings that you want when you hit record are the ones that you actually are looking for.
And the second question, we're in this meeting and I want to click on another tab so that maybe I could quickly look up a link to share it. I can't do it, but is that because of the settings? I need to set that beforehand?
Not necessarily. For instance, a moment ago, I went to my browser and I was looking for something else, and then I returned to this call. As long as you don't have this window maximized, you can always minimize it and go to your email, go to your browser. You have the benefit of doing that, although that can also be a point of distraction for students, right?
Okay, I'm going to play with it, because what I find, I don't know if it's because I'm using a Mac, when I go to the browser, I totally lose the Zoom. It's not another tab.
It's probably because you have it minimized. I also have, in Macs, they have like the spaces that it shifts. I'm using a Mac right now, and I have the call maximized. So I'm able to just go, if I press F3, I'm able to go to my browser and then come back to the Zoom if I click on the Zoom icon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pablo, I'm sorry. One last thing before we move on to the scheduling. I would like everyone to experience breakout rooms.
Oh, yes.
Can we do that?
Yes.
So Pablo is going to magically put us into different rooms. And you have the option when you set up the meeting to do pre-assigned rooms, to put your participants into different rooms before the meeting even starts. So when you're ready to break them apart, you can, they'll know, it'll give you like a grid of who is going where. But I think Pablo is just going to do it randomly now. It's going to generate.
Yep. So are we ready? Okay, let's go. Let's go ahead and, oh, wow, it's so
How many groups?
It's a total of 18.
So when we're done, we're going to have, ooh.
What happened? So I'm looking at all the groups, and I'm going to start the breakout rooms, okay?
Okay, but call us back in a minute or even less, okay?
Yes, we'll do.
Pablo, are we all back?
Yes, we are all back. It must have been a little interesting with over 70 people. You may realize you stood a little longer there. The reason for that is because Zoom, the moment that you open the breakout rooms, while people start joining, then everybody gets on the breakout rooms. And then when you close, that's how Zoom calls it, you close the breakout rooms, there's a period of 60 seconds, a minute, and then the clocks go down so that everyone has a chance to join back. So that's why we had to wait a minute there.
So Jenny is asking, how did we do it? I'm going to show in a second. So the next two things, I'm going to show two quick demos. One, how to set up a meeting, and two, how to mark up the settings so that you will actually select breakout rooms and everything else you need for the meeting. So give me just 1 second. I'm going to share screen. Okay. Okay, so this is the web portal for Zoom. Once you have an account, you can automatically send yourself in, like I do on my desktop. So you will have two ways to get into Zoom. One through your desktop, and one by simply going to zoom.us, and that's your web portal. So right now, in order to set up all the settings, we're going to go to the web portal. So zoom.us, and it automatically takes me to this page because I'm signed in. And I'm going to go into my account. And I'm going to schedule a meeting. I can simply click here, schedule a meeting, or I can go to meetings and schedule a meeting from here. This is easier if you have a lot of meetings scheduled and you just kind of want to take a quick look before you schedule a new one. So here's, I'm going to schedule a meeting. I'm going to call it something like, I don't know, ENG 102, March 23. Let's say I want to schedule something for my class. I can add a description, the date, the time, the duration. I usually add at least 1 hour just because I never know how long the meeting is going to go. You know, sometimes it goes longer. So always check the time. It automatically sets it to Eastern, but just check. If you want, you can make one meeting and click here, which will ask you, it will ask you whether you want it to repeat daily, weekly, and you just make your selection. So if you're doing a class schedule, this may be good. And then it tells you.
Are you using the monthly paid subscription?
I do have a pro account, but I believe in order to set up a meeting, these are very basic functions, so everyone should have them.
Even if you have the free?
Even if you have the free. Mm-hmm. When I go into settings, it will be a little bit different.
Okay.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. I have the free one, and I don't think I have the dashboard. I don't have this thing automatically, but maybe if I went on to their website, I would get it.
So yeah, so why don't you try going to the website? Go to the website, sign in. Once you do the web portal, you'll have all these options.
Okay, thank you.
You should. You will not have registration probably.
I have a question. I mean, from everyone, are you do you stick to your schedule? The same old schedule, or you change the schedule? Because I don't know what am I supposed to do with my student? Is it I stick, for example, Wednesday 2 hours, Friday 1 hour? I mean, what do you suggest?
I would, in that case, I would just not do recurrent.
Okay.
Okay, I would just schedule it for every meeting that you want to have.
Okay, thank you.
So very quickly here, I always check host video on and participant video on. And then to give them the option of joining either on the computer or on a phone, you always want to check both here so that they can have different audio systems. Then you have a few options here. I always let my students or whoever join before I do. This is helpful because they can even go before the meeting started the day before and just kind of check it out. Or if I'm running late, they can be there and just kind of bond before I get there. You can check mute participants upon entry. This is probably a good feature if you're hosting a class, because this way they will not make noise when they come in. If you enable waiting room, this is a very good feature for office hours. You can be in a meeting and with a student, and then when somebody new comes in, they won't be able to enter the meeting right away. They will be put in a waiting room. You will get a notification on your screen that so-and-so just showed up. You have a choice to admit them right away or to send them a message and say, I'm tied up now, please wait 5 minutes, whatever you want to say. So I don't think this is a good feature if you're hosting a class, but if you're hosting office hours, this is definitely good. And then you see here, you can pre-assign breakout rooms. So you can create the rooms right here. Now, if you want to record the meeting automatically, you will check this. But I think the consensus is to just start the recording once the meeting starts, okay? So then you save. You can put it on one of your calendars. And here it says copy the invitation. So I usually share you can share the whole thing, but it can be a little confusing. What I usually share is this link right here. I also share meeting ID and password because when students join on their phones, they will be asked for this information. And then you can give them these numbers and they can simply call. They can call into the meeting and just like literally using their phones. They're not going to be present on video in any way. They won't be able to view what's happening, but they will be able to call in and hear what's happening. Okay, so depending on how many options you want to give to your students, then you copy, paste, and send it to the participants. Questions? Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. And then the other thing I wanted to show quickly, again, if you go into my account, there is a settings bar and you can set the settings for all of your meetings. So here, you see, I don't have host video and participants video checked because I like to have the option. I would much rather do it for every meeting. So then I always want telephone and audio computer as my choice. Joining before host, again, I usually make that choice when I set up the meeting. Personal meeting ID is a personal space, a personal meeting space that you always have. It's only one number, one link. You can send it to people and you don't need to set up a meeting every time. With that number, they can simply, with that link, they can simply go to the scheduled meeting. You don't need to keep resending links or rescheduling a meeting. Require password when scheduling new meetings. I'm not sure. Oh, I think, yes, this is for participants. This is useful because if they don't have the password, then when they call on the phone, they won't be able to join. So it's a lot of settings. And again, I have a pro account, so some basic accounts may not have all of them. I just want to show quickly. So the chat is enabled. Private chat is enabled. So if somebody wants to send a private message to another participant, they can do that. So somebody was asking about saving the chat before. You see this saving right here, auto saving chats. If it's checked, it means that automatically the chat will be saved. When participants come in, there could be a little sound. You will also notice that in the chat box, there is a file sharing option. So that's because this is checked. You can have a co-host, and this is where you have polling. Screen sharing is on. Who can share? All participants or host only. So this is what I have checked. Whiteboarding, annotation. Remote controls are checked. This is a good feature because if you're working on a paper and you want both you and the student to be able to work on that paper, then it's important to have remote controls. Nonverbal feedback, go slower, go faster. Breakout rooms is checked. So all closed captioning, if you have somebody again to type, you can do that. Virtual background is kind of cool. If you want to kind of create a background for yourself, then you do that. And then there is a way to do it a little bit later to select a backdrop for yourself. So waiting room can be enabled here for this particular meeting if you want to. And this is also how to record. So you can have the cloud recording.
Olga, sorry, Terry here. The cloud recording, as far as I understand, is only available if you have the $14. Actually, not even that. You have to pay extra to have the cloud recording.
That's right. I'm not paying extra.
Let me see. Send a copy to the person who scheduled the meeting. That's actually. Are you sure about that?
Absolutely. I am paying the $14 a month, and when I was signing in, that was 2 days ago, the option cloud recording was possible, but you had to pay extra to get that option.
But you can still record. And
I can record on my own computer, and which is what I'm going to do. And what I'll do afterwards, because it's an MP4 file, which is standard for everyone, I will then upload that to my Dropbox LaGuardia account and share the link to my students so they can download the recording.
This is actually new to me because I always have the option to do the cloud recording.
And that has worked for you?
I mean, I actually never tried it. Let me see. I remember I recorded a few meetings before. Let me see.
Olga, I wanted to mention that, thanks for that question. I was able to go on the website and I pulled up a link for the cloud recording, and it's right up there. And let me just go back and organize myself. The cloud recording, according to the Zoom website, based on what I see, is, let me actually see, hold on 1 second. It is, it's on the link that I'm looking at, by the way, it's on the chat. If you go into the chat, you will be able to access the information that I am accessing right now. Cloud recording storage capacity, the following table explains that. The pro user gets 1 gigabyte pro user. There's a business and then education and then Zoom and then other type of license. So the basic account does not have that. That's what according to the website.
And again, all the tutorials, they talk about it as if it's available widely.
And the link is right there.
But I think you were saying earlier that you have a pro account, right?
Yeah, I bought the $14 a month account because
that you don't have the cloud.
Because one of the other issue is initially class were cut off 40 minutes after a meeting, and you would have to re-sign in for the students, which is a problem. I know that they have extended it to 1 hour. However, for me, my classes are 4-hour classes. So I had to go to an option where I wouldn't be cut off after 1 hour, have everyone re-sign in and do that 4 times a class. But there might be, as far as the cloud, I mean, the cloud is really not a big deal. When I set up all my meetings yesterday and went through the settings that you were showing us, I just clicked local storage, so it will be stored on my computer. And then I just have many ways of sending that file to my students.
And that's definitely an option. So yeah.
I just want to say, this is Paul again, that I was teaching this the psychology classes, and I also heard it only 40 minutes, but actually I went over an hour, and it didn't cut me off, and it didn't cut the students off. So I think they extended it for some reason, maybe because of the situation we are in the crisis with the health crisis.
You know what I'm also wondering, Terry, when did you open your account?
2 days ago.
Okay.
Like after I went through all the training on Blackboard and saw that the interface was not easy to understand. And once I started looking at Zoom, I saw that in one afternoon, I watched 4 of their videos, which explained everything pretty well, except for the cloud thing, as you mentioned. They talk about it as it's readily available.
Right.
When you sign up, you will see it's an option. There are several options that will come after the $14 a month, and that adds to it. But that's easily circumventable because I don't want to save anything on the cloud to begin with.
But I think you need to have a lot of space on your desktop to save. Anyway, maybe we should move forward a little bit.
Can I jump in here? I believe that Zoom is making this, I had been putting this in the chat, Zoom is making this available. There's no more limit, the 45-minute limit or the 3-person limit. And they're making it available for as long as possible. I normally teach in a high school and I only teach one College Now class. So I'm new to this because I'm used to either using Google Classroom and no Blackboard. So I have to do this to keep for my students, but I'm thrilled. It looks a lot of fun. But I have the free one, and I don't see the cloud yet on that.
I think the free is K-12, isn't it?
No.
No?
No, because I was practicing with my son, and he's not in anything. So he's, you know, he's just an adult, and I practiced with him. So it's free for anybody. It's what I understood. And I have 2 accounts. I did a personal account so I could practice and use it with my family and have virtual cocktail parties, which I think is the big thing. And then I have my my school account, and I have this account now. So.
And I wanted to share that on the chat, I put the link to the different plans on the Zoom website. And if you actually click on the plus sign right next to each of the features, you will be able to see exactly what each of those plans entail. And it is true, after a quick look, the cloud recording does not appear on the basic account. It appears, however, as an add-on, as an additional feature that you can have when you have one of these plans. And breakout rooms is available on the basic account, according to the website that I just shared.
I was looking for it.
Yeah,
Great.
and it's the link is up there on the chat room.
In the free account. Okay.
So I have a question. Hello, can I ask you a question? In that case that, you know, you are disconnected and you are doing, you know, you're using Zoom. So do you have to, when you resume again, do you have to send a link to the students again? I mean, you know, it happens maybe after 40 minutes, you are, you know, disconnected. So what you're gonna do? I mean, because usually, you know, you send a link to the students to, you know, come and, you know, participate for the Zoom.
If your meeting was scheduled for more than 40 minutes, then you and the students should be able to re-enter.
Oh, okay.
I had the situation today. I had the situation today earlier. I used a private meeting for my, you know, trial of connection, and in 40 minutes it was disconnected, and then I just ended the meeting, and then I immediately started it again, and students used the old link to join, and everything was fine. But I'm guessing it was fine because it was private. You know, private meetings, so that can enter at any time. That's probably why.
Exactly.
Maybe with other meetings, you should resend the link again, you know, to join or something.
Yeah.
But it would be the same link.
Yeah, it will be the same link probably, yeah. Well, if it is the same link, then it doesn't need to be resend actually, because they already have it.
But you may need to communicate to students, hey, you know.
Yeah. Just say like, you know, get out and come in again. Probably,
I also wanted to share, I was speaking with a faculty member in another CUNY college this morning, and the way that she approached this is she created actually two meetings ahead of time, only of 40 minutes each, and then she put them, I think she was starting at 11 until 11:40, and then the next one she scheduled it 15 minutes after so that she could give the students that break. And then she sent those 2 ahead of time, and she said between 11 and 11:40 we're going to meet with this meeting information, and then 15 minutes after, so that you can take a break, you will click on this other one. And they were able to click and join the meeting right away. So that was a way for her, a clever way, I think, for her to bypass the limit, the 40-minute limit.
But Pablo, weren't you saying that also with 40 minutes, Zoom kind of kicks in and says they're able to extend it?
Correct. So I honestly have heard multiple versions, informal versions about this. There's a Slack channel where other CUNY faculty are sharing a lot of resources. One of them mentioned that on Zoom, and someone else here mentioned this, Zoom is extending that 40-minute because of the crisis. And this faculty member said that when you're on the call and about to get to that 40-minute mark, you get a pop-up window that says you are able to extend this meeting for free. However, and this happened to me when I was in a call by someone else who had the basic account, and we were cut off at 40 minutes. And this person had an EDU account, and this person was not given that. So I have heard both versions, when it is granted and versions where you get cut off.
Okay, so it looks like we're not going to have, and first of all, it looks like most of you already have accounts. So maybe we should bypass that. And I just want to, what we can do is, those of you who don't have accounts, and if you want to open them, let me just quickly share. I know we're running out of time. Let's see here. So if you go to zoom.us and open an account, then click on my account, just like I did before, and you will get to, so the page will look like this, and you will see my account in the right-hand corner at the top. That will take you directly to your profile. And then this is the profile page. And then on the profile page, you will see schedule a meeting or meetings over here. You can easily schedule a meeting this way, right? So schedule a meeting. If you want, you can email Pablo or myself with some time options, and you're welcome to invite us into your meeting, and we can do one-on-one walking around.
That'd be great. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So one last thing, some of the resources are here. I just want to point out a couple. The one at the top is a super good, very comprehensive guide, and it's specifically educating over Zoom. It was probably put out just now because it's about coronavirus situation. So you can see there's like a second section of the guide is about educating over Zoom, so you can read that. A really good webinar on educators on educating on Zoom. The first 15 minutes is directed at students, and then it starts talking about educators. So you can sort of, I really do recommend this one highly. And then you have a bunch of 1-minute tutorials, the whole support page here. And here, if you want to kind of walk your student through how to do a PowerPoint and video on Zoom, this is also a good tutorial here.
And by the way, I posted all of those links on the chat, by the way. Sorry.
Oh, but we didn't save the chat yet. So how am I going to go back and get all that information that you posted on the chat?
You can cut and paste the chat.
I think I muted myself by mistake. When we load the video into YouTube and we make it available to others, we're going to make sure that we include the links in the description of that video.
In the recording you made?
That is correct.
So
underneath the recording. We're putting the recording on YouTube.
Okay.
So in the description, we'll put the information and the links.
So that'll be out like tomorrow or next week or what?
It will be out in the next 1 hour and a half.
You're kidding? Oh wow.
Well, the link. Okay.
Okay.
But also the links to the resources are all in my PowerPoint. Would it be possible to email participants with the PowerPoint, or?
I was just going to ask that.
I will post the PowerPoint if it's okay with you, Olga. I can post the PowerPoint on the CTL blog, on the Keep on Teaching blog. That's a lot of links and resources, including a couple to Zoom.
But also, could you email, because it gets so crazy with all of the links, the resources on that, and I want to concentrate on this.
Yeah, and I will ask because I'm not hosting this meeting, but that'll be good to learn. Like, how do you follow up through email with everybody that registered?
Guys,
Well, no, I'm
Um,
asking for Olga to send her PowerPoint
I
through
understand.
email.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
Sure, no problem.
if anybody wants to save the chat, if you just go to the bottom right of your chat screen, there's
save
two little
chat.
dots in a box, and it just saves the chat in 2 seconds. You'll have it, the whole chat.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
so welcome.
But wait, I wonder, will that save on our
It
desktop?
goes onto your computer. I just saved it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
And then it will tell you where it is.
Repeat that, please. Where do you go to
Yes,
save
at
it?
the very bottom of your Zoom chat screen, the everyone or group chat, whatever you call it, there's a little box, and in the little box is 3 little dots. Just click it on it, and it says Save Chat. That's it. The end.
Hey, Pat, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We're all in this together, right?
You said it.
No kidding.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pablo, thank you, Olga.
Thank you, everybody.
This was
Thank
really
you,
great.
Olga. Thank you, Pablo.
Yes, thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Have a stay
Thank
safe,
you.
and we'll stay in touch.
Stay safe.
Take care.
Okay. Bye bye.
Have a good
Everyone, thank you.